All right, man, let's get to the 1 o'clock slate. Let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 17. The Baltimore Ravens, 10. Another weird one, Sam.
Yes.
I don't know how you describe this one. Because on paper, right, the Ravens are 3-1. The Steelers are 2-2, coming off a very disappointing loss against the Houston Texans. And when you see the way the game starts, Baltimore's up 10-0 relatively early in the second quarter. And, it looks like, hey, Baltimore's the better team. Yeah. However,
it looked like they were the better team for almost the entire game.
But this is Ravens-Steelers, and weird stuff happens. The 10-0 lead for Baltimore gets chipped away at by the Steelers. It's 10-3. Then there's a blocked punt in the fourth quarter to make it 10-5. Another field goal to make it 10-8. And then the Ravens are driving, right? They're driving down the field to put the nail in the coffin. They're up 2. A touchdown presumably puts them up 9. A 2-score game. And Lamar Jackson, who was excellent in this game. Lamar Jackson was outstanding throwing the football in this game. Interception in the end zone. His worst pass of the day to Joey Porter Jr. Steelers come back, 41-yarder by Kenny Pickett to George Pickens. Ends up being the game winner. And the Steelers win 17-10.
Yeah, this was a game where if you watched the opening stages of it, the end doesn't make any sense. You watch Baltimore go up 10-0, Lamar's cooking, Steelers aren't really doing much on either side of the ball. You're like, game over. Baltimore's way better. This game is going to end with a double-digit difference. The Ravens are going to win by 14, 18, whatever. And then this is a little bit like those Jacksonville games where Trevor Lawrence had been dealing and his receivers kept letting him down. Lamar was looking phenomenal early, but then he gets a drop on a wide open pass to Zay Flowers. It's a tiny bit behind him, but you got to catch that. Rashad Bateman drops an easy touchdown in the end zone. Zay Flowers screws one up later where he falls down on an adjustment. Lamar Jackson should have had many more yards and points in this game, and the Ravens receivers were conspiring not to let that happen. You add on top of that, Larry Ogunjobi forces a fumble on Justice Hill that kind of started. If Baltimore had driven that drive, put up some points, maybe that's too far for Pittsburgh. So there was just enough freaky things in there to keep the game close. They had a blocked punt as well, narrowly escaped a touchdown, got a safety in it. By the way, I would buy an argument if you wanted to tell me that was a touchdown. The blocked punt. He got 2 hands on the ball with control and his elbows toe dragged, swagged over at the corner of the end zone.
That was similar. Did you see the Niners fumble recovery along the sideline against the Cowboys? I really thought they might take the Niners one and say he was out of bounds because you need to recover it just before the white, show control, and then you touch the white.
That's the question. That's what the problem with these ones, right? Is they always, what is control in these circumstances? As far as I'm concerned, once your hands are on the ball and it doesn't move, that's control. It doesn't really matter if it's a frame before the next thing, whatever hits out of bounds. That is control, and it does apparently demonstrably happen before anything touches out of bounds. So in this situation, he dives, grabs, 2 hands on the ball, it doesn't move from that point on, and his elbows, the first thing to hit, he's horizontal at the time, diving for this ball. The first thing to come down is the bottom of both elbows, in bounds, before the rest of his arm comes down out of bounds. That's in bounds.
Yeah, but they gave it a safety anyway.
Yep.
And then again, it was like Pittsburgh's offense came to life, right? We were putting out the George Pickens stat. He was 0 for 8 after catching 64% of his contested catches last year. He was 0 for 8 through 4 weeks of this season. Not only does he start making those contested catches, he also has the 41-yarder where he gives that little late arm bar to separate against Marlon Humphrey. Beautiful throw by Kenny Pickett, and that ends up being the game winner. Lamar was outstanding in this entire game. Kenny Pickett, was having pretty much the same game he'd had for the rest of the year, but the Steelers made plays down the stretch.
There have been a few times this season where, the Pittsburgh offense is doing what it usually does, which is to say nothing, and then somebody somewhere, whether it's in the booth, whether it's Kenny Pickett at quarterback, just goes, you know what, screw this, we're just throwing the ball to George Pickens. like for the next foreseeable. The offense is going to be, where is Pickens? I'm throwing him the ball. And that works. Like, that's their best thing they do on offense, is when they just go, I don't care what's being called, we're throwing it to George Pickens. And like the big play at the death, like that was over Marlon Humphrey as well. Theoretically, their best corner.
Yep.
The other thing I'd forgotten is the interception, the Joey Porter Jr. interception. The Steelers had given them the ball there. Like, they'd muffed the punt and set Baltimore up in like the red zone. Like, they dug themselves out of that, this could be the game right here, screw up with that interception.
Yeah, it's funny because it wasn't like everything went Pittsburgh's way in the comeback. Like you said, there was probably a fair argument that punt could have been a touchdown.
Right, but every time they made a balls of something, they fixed it.
Yes. So even at the end of the game, Pittsburgh screws up running out the clock. So they're running out the clock, and they get an illegal formation. So I think they probably would have punted. Sorry, they would have.
They got an illegal formation on a play where they were like literally trying to chew clock. Like,
yes.
Take the ball and sort of scurry backwards for a few seconds and then take the knee.
And so Baltimore never should have seen the ball again, basically. And they did with 50-something seconds left. But that was when the closer came in, Sam. The closer, T.J. Watt, comes in with the game-ending.
He doesn't have a good nickname, right? Did you just coin one?
Maybe. We could give him. I don't know if we're the ones to give T.J. Watt a nickname.
Oh, can you imagine how mad Steelers fans would be if we found one that stuck?
Oh, that would be funny. That would be funny. I'll tell you, I'll call him the ball magnet. I don't know if that'll catch on, but he's the ball magnet. He had the fumble recovery again. So again, during this entire comeback attempt by the Steelers, a couple drives earlier, you have Alex Highsmith with
that's the thing. So
strip
Baltimore,
sack.
Within like 2 minutes, Baltimore had multiple drives to try and win this. The first one was like a replica of the other week where Alex Highsmith whoops his guy at left tackle all the way around the edge, strip sack, fumble, and the ball like bounces right to T.J. Watt again, recovery. Literally almost a clone of that play, except he doesn't score a touchdown on it with the recovery. And then, as you say, Pittsburgh has that drive and screws up the running out of the clock. Baltimore gets it right back, and then you get T.J. Watt actually being the guy that creates the play.
Yeah, T.J. Watt, I mean, look, he is awesome. He makes those. He does have that knack for those fourth quarter plays and closing things down. So we'll call him the closer for now.
I mean, if it wasn't so emotionally charged by fans, it's a fascinating contrast, the T.J. Watt versus Myles Garrett debate, because they do appear to be consistently slightly different players in terms of how this manifests. Like, T.J. Watt does win less often than most elite pass rushers in the NFL on the edge, right? Having said that, he does also generate more of those closing plays, those game-changing plays. He's on, like, Chandler Jones always did this, right? Chandler Jones won less often than other elite edge rushers in his NFL career, but consistently generated more sacks than basically anybody. Whereas Myles Garrett is the other end of that spectrum. He wins more often than basically anybody, but doesn't or hasn't yet in his NFL career had as many of those game-changing, game-closing plays. And that is an interesting, like, dynamic. Which one is more useful? Which one is more valuable? Which one is better? Because I don't think there's a right answer to that necessarily. There is clearly a line where X number of wins is worth more than one game-changing play. But is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 15? Is it, what is that balance? And that's what we're playing with on a weekly, yearly, career basis with those two pass rushers.
Part of it's the probabilities, because historically, if you win more, you'll get more sacks and you'll make those game-changing plays.
But it's also like
But does a guy literally have a knack for that, like T.J. Watt? But he seems to continue to do that, so got to give him credit for it. Alex Highsmith did have a huge game with 9 pressures as well.
Right, and it's also that sort of classic, age-old tale of pressure in and of itself is valuable. Like, you put pressure on a quarterback, his passer rating drops 35 points, generally, right? So it is, even if a guy never gets a sack, there is value in simply pressuring the quarterback, and it's just a case of how valuable is that relative to a sack, to 2 sacks, whatever. Like I said, if it wasn't such a charged debate, it'd just be a fascinating case study generally.